There are places in this world where hope goes to die. I'm talking about prisons, but not just any prisons. We're about to explore the darkest corners of the world's penal systems. This isn't for the faint of heart, but it's a journey we need to take together. Deep in the Ural Mountains lies Black Dolphin Prison, a fortress of isolation and control. Named for a statue crafted by inmates, Black Dolphin conceals a grim reality hidden from the outside world. This is Russia's most secure penal colony, reserved for the country's most hardened criminals, those deemed too dangerous for regular prisons. Prisoners are transported blindfolded, bent double, and shackled, a method designed to break their spirit and ensure compliance. Life inside is defined by isolation and control, with every movement scrutinized by guards. Inmates are kept in cramped cells for 23 hours a day with barely enough room to move. The remaining hour is spent exercising in a slightly larger cage under the watchful eyes of the guards. Human contact is virtually non-existent, leaving inmates to grapple with their thoughts in solitude. Every aspect of an inmate's life is monitored and controlled, from their daily routines to their interactions. The constant surveillance and lack of privacy create an atmosphere of oppressive silence where even whispers are rare. Any infraction is met with swift and brutal punishment, reinforcing the prison's iron grip on its inhabitants. Black Dolphin is a chilling testament to the depths of despair we can inflict on one another, a place where hope is a distant memory. La Sabaneta in Venezuela embodies a different kind of hell, one fueled by overcrowding, violence, and disease. This notorious prison is a microcosm of the country's broader struggles, reflecting the dire state of its penal system. Thousands of inmates are crammed into a space designed for a fraction of their number. The cells, meant to hold a few dozen, now house hundreds, creating a breeding ground for tension and conflict. Violence is endemic, with gangs ruling the prison. These gangs operate with impunity, often more powerful than the prison authorities themselves. Guards often turn a blind eye to the brutality. Corruption and fear paralyze the prison's staff, leaving inmates to fend for themselves in a lawless environment. Disease spreads like wildfire due to appalling conditions. The lack of basic sanitation and medical care exacerbates the suffering, with illnesses running rampant. Survival is the only achievement. Inmates must navigate a daily gauntlet of threats, from violence to disease, just to make it through another day. Inmates fight for every scrap of food and inch of space. The scarcity of resources leads to constant battles, with the strongest preying on the weak. The stories from La Sabaneta are harrowing, tales of survival and despair. Former inmates recount their experiences with a mix of horror and resignation, painting a grim picture of life inside. It's a stark illustration of a penal system collapsing under its own failings. The infrastructure is crumbling and the system is overwhelmed, unable to provide even the most basic necessities. The line between order and chaos is irrevocably blurred. Riots and protests are common, as inmates struggle to assert their humanity in an environment designed to strip it away. Gitarama, Rwanda, a prison haunted by the 1994 genocide. Built for a few hundred, it swelled to over 7,000 inmates. Conditions were horrific, with disease, starvation, and despair rampant. Inmates resorted to desperate measures to survive. Food and water were scarce, and diseases ran rampant. Many inmates were held for years without trial. Gitarama is a chilling reminder of the human capacity for cruelty and resilience. It's a place where the wounds of the past continue to fester, a stark illustration of the long shadow cast by genocide. ADX Florence, a supermax prison in the Colorado Desert, is America's most secure prison. It stands as a fortress of isolation designed to contain the most dangerous individuals. Home to some of the country's most notorious criminals, including terrorists, mob bosses, and serial killers. Inmates spend 23 hours a day locked in their cells with minimal human contact. Their only window to the outside world is a narrow slit in the wall, barely allowing any natural light. The remaining hour is spent in a slightly larger exercise yard, still confined and under strict surveillance. Interaction is kept to a minimum, with inmates rarely seeing or speaking to one another. Inmates exercise alone, their movements tracked by cameras, ensuring they remain isolated. The psychological toll of this isolation is profound, often leading to severe mental health issues. Inmates often exhibit signs of severe mental distress, such as anxiety, depression, and hallucinations. Some become withdrawn, retreating into themselves, while others lash out in frustration and anger. ADEs. Florence is a place of profound silence where the absence of sound is almost deafening. The debate over the ethics of supermax prisons continues, with strong arguments on both sides. Proponents argue they are necessary to house the most dangerous criminals, ensuring public safety. Opponents counter that the extreme isolation is inhumane, violating basic human rights and dignity. ADX. Florence is a stark reminder of the human need for connection, highlighting the profound impact of isolation on the human psyche. Camp 22, North Korea, a vast political prison camp, home to an estimated 50,000 men, women, and children. These are not conventional criminals, but enemies of the state. Torture, starvation, and public executions are commonplace. The North Korean government denies its existence. Satellite imagery and eyewitness accounts paint a chilling picture. Forced labor in dangerous conditions is the norm. Food is scarce, medical care virtually non-existent. Camp 22 is a chilling reminder of the human capacity for cruelty, a stark illustration of the depths of depravity when fear and ideology reign supreme. As we emerge from this exploration, the weight of what we've witnessed lingers. These prisons serve as stark reminders of the consequences of our actions. They illustrate the fragility of freedom and the importance of making wise choices. Live a life of purpose, empathy, and respect for the law. The world is full of darkness, but also light. Choose wisely, for the path you take can lead to unimaginable suffering or a life of meaning and purpose.